Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Welcome to Top 5 from The Ray Taylor Show, where each week I rank movies, generally movies, in a variety of categories, from franchise to subgenre to directors and actors. In this episode, I will be ranking TV episodes in a season of a TV show. But generally, no film or TV episode will go unwatched as I break down my top 5 picks. So join me every Sunday for new episodes, and let's dive into the world of film and sometimes TV with Top 5 from The Ray Taylor Show. In this episode, I am ranking my top 5 episodes from Poker Face, which is a murder mystery TV series on Peacock, created by Rian Johnson, starring Natasha Lyonne as our hero, Charlie Cale. This show follows Charlie as a casino worker who starts off as a casino worker who gets caught up in several mysterious deaths while on the run. Charlie has an amazing ability to accurately call bullshit 100% of the time. Her ability is mixed with her drive to understand the why people are lying. The why someone would lie is what drives her to solve these murders. A very unconventional detective Charlie is, somebody you don't normally see as a detective with a power that is very unique to her. It's a series that consists of 10 episodes that premiered on January 26th of 2023. Each episode features an inverted detective story format and follows Charlie as she travels across the U.S. encountering unique characters and solving homicides. Because each episode is a standalone episode, a standalone story, similar in many ways to an anthology series, I decided to rank my top 5 episodes from season 1 of Poker Face. This episode will include spoilers for the show Poker Face, so if you have not watched season 1 of Poker Face, head on over to Peacock. It is a great show if you're a fan of Rian Johnson, such as the Knives Out movies. This isn't exactly Knives Out, but it has some of that flavor. Not every episode is directed by him, but many of the episodes were. Natasha Lyonne plays, she's a great lead of this show as a detective, and it is a show that has been picked up for a second season by Peacock before it even finished airing. So it's a show that Peacock believed in immediately, and we will see again most likely next year. I recently finished recapping every episode of season 1 of Poker Face, which if you want to check out my recap podcast, you can do so. The Poker Face Recap Podcast, presented by The Ray Taylor Show. Available on all podcast platforms as well as on my YouTube page, youtube.com/inspireddisorder. There's a playlist for my episode recaps of Poker Face. So let's get into my top 5 episodes. Half of the episodes that I love the most. And at the end, I will talk about some honorable mentions, as the majority of these episodes are great. There's a couple that I just didn't like that obviously won't make the list. But let's get into my top 5. Starting off with number 5. This is an interesting episode. She's in Texas in this episode. And it is an interesting, I really enjoyed the creative nature of the murder that takes place. And all of these episodes, I should mention, by the way, are structured fairly similarly. Like the first act of all of these episodes, for the most part, we see the murder take place without Charlie in the episode yet. We see the murder take place. And then on the second act, we are introduced to Charlie, and we see how she fit in to the story that we had seen, that she is usually a part of, but we just don't see how she's integrated into the story. And then we see her solve these crimes. In many ways, she will approach people that are associated with the crimes, and she will open up, telling them what she knows about the crimes. She obviously, her ability to call bullshit. She can point out when people lie. She calls out bullshit, but her need to uncover why people are lying is always the thing that intrigues her the most. And in some of the episodes, she has creative ways. They came up with creative ways in the show on some episodes to let the audience know when she's calling bullshit, even though she may be in a situation where she can't. So let's start. Let's get back into my fifth pick. This is episode 3, The Stall, my fifth favorite episode of Poker Face. This episode was directed by Ian B. McDonald. This episode aired on January 6th. Or 26th, 2023. This episode guest stars, as all of these episodes have different guest stars, which is also fun. The guest stars of this episode were Little Rel Howery, Daniel McDonald, Shane Paul McGee, and Larry Brown. The body count in this episode is only 1. Some episodes, there's an episode that nobody dies, and then there's episodes where 4 people die. This episode, there's only one death in this, almost 2. The second being a canine of the canine variety. But in this episode, Charlie arrives in Texas and is followed by a stray dog. She meets up with this stray dog who jumps into her car, and she can't get rid of it. This is an annoying dog that only quiets down when she puts on extreme right-wing talk radio. So we have ourselves a fascist dog in this episode. At one point, she stops at a roadside barbecue, Boyd's Barbecue, where the dog gets out and jumps on the tables and eats all the food. The owner, Taffy Boyle, one of the owners, demands that Charlie pay off what the dog ate. So she ends up temporarily working at this job, which, as she is on the run, running from Cliff, who is sent to go track her down from the first episode. She's on the run and looking for jobs that she can work part-time, temporary, to make some cash. So not only will this allow her to pay off what the dog destroyed, but also allow her to make some cash as well. So she takes this temporary job and bonds with George Boyle, who is the head chef. George is moved by a film, Okja, that he borrows from Charlie, and it kind of changes his perspective. It is a movie that is about animal rights, and he decides to quit cooking animals, which in turn, Taffy and his wife, Mandy, Taffy being his brother, Mandy being his wife, end up setting up a situation where they pre-record a radio segment to give Taffy an alibi while he kills George. And Charlie finds the dog and realizes on her way out, she finds this dog and realizes that this dog that has been hit wasn't hit by a car. It was hit by a piece of wood. Wood is used at this barbecue. So a lot of her tracking down the clues is her going around tasting the different kinds of wood that are being used to smoke in the different places. And she finds out that the wood that was used to hit this dog was also the same wood that was used to smoke George's trailer where he was found dead. She ends up confronting Taffy at the end and tricks Mandy into thinking he's going to confess, which is kind of a brilliant wrap-up of the episode where she confronts the killer and it kind of lays it out. But also in laying it out, she is also constructing a trap for them to fall into with the help of the radio announcer, who is also the different personalities on the radio station, including the ultra right-wing conservative radio show that the dog loves. So it's a great ending to this show. When Charlie leaves, Austin dedicates the show to her and keeps the dog for himself. Obviously, the dog loves him because he's a black dude pretending to be a white conservative guy, because he knows the ratings will be good in Texas, obviously. A very satisfying conclusion in this episode with Mandy in the cop car thinking that she's able to make Taffy take the fall for what they did together. And while she's in the car, Her confession that she made on thinking she was talking to Taffy is played on the radio, and basically the cop sitting next to her hears her confessing to the crime, confessing to helping Taffy, colluding with Taffy, and they're on their way to the prison. It's a great end to the episode as well. Such a fun, the term the stall, how it's described in the making of the barbecue, and how it applies to how where the magic happens. It's that moment where the magic happens in barbecue, and it's the moment where the magic happens in this episode where Charlie ensnares the two people and proves their guilt. So coming in at number 5, my 5th favorite episode from Poker Face is episode 3, The Stall. Moving on to my 4th favorite episode from Poker Face. This is an episode where we see Charlie get her hands dirty. This is an episode where, aside from the first episode, is where Charlie's life is put at risk. It's a fun episode. It's a creative kind of how these people go about committing their murder is great. And it's also an episode where Charlie's perception of people changes in a big way. And kind of blows her mind. And it's also an episode where Charlie meets an ally that helps her out down the road on her trip, on her journey. So coming at number 4, my 4th favorite episode of Poker Face is episode 5, Time of the Monkey. This episode directed by Lucky McKee. It aired February 2nd, 2023. Guest stars Judith Light, S. Apitha Merkerson, Kay Callan, Reed Burney, and Simon Helbrig, as well as Darius Frazier. The body count in this episode, 2 bodies. Charlie takes a job at a retirement community, and she befriends 2 ex-felons, residents Joyce and Joyce Harris and Irene Smothers. Right? They tell her their past in a cult and the activism work that they did. And they talk about Gabriel, who's like the leader of this, and how they were raided by the cops. And in this raid, one of the characters was shot in the back, thus paralyzed, so she is now in a wheelchair, and they went to jail. Charlie recognizes that there is a new resident and finds out that it is actually Gabriel under an assumed name, who ends up, he confesses to these women, apologizing for him ratting them out. The reason they got raided was because Gabriel ratted on them. So these 2 women seek revenge against somebody that they just recently thought was still. They didn't even know if he was alive. And when they found out he was the rat, they want to get revenge. The way they plan it out, having Irene sneak into his room from the bathroom, the woman who's paralyzed climbing up, scaling the lattice work on the outside of the building, wearing like a floral clothing that acts like camouflage while she's climbing up so people outside don't notice her, climbing up to the room in order to kill him, swapping out the medical bracelet so it's not detected by the nursing staff when she kills him. Because she puts it on her wrist, so it's monitoring her stats instead of his, and then how they fake his death while they're on a field trip. It's brilliant. It's also the episode where Charlie meets Luca, the FBI agent who is kind of sadly in charge of Gabriel's witness protection, and mistakenly put him in a retirement community with people that know his true identity and want him dead. So a great episode where Charlie makes her connection at the FBI, which comes back later on in the season. The second body that is killed in this 2-person body count, we have Gabriel. The second is one of the nosy neighbors, one of the other residents that they want to keep quiet because she noticed them doing sex stuff with a zapper at the zoo, and they use the same pressure cooker technology bomb that they were going to use in their domestic terrorist attacks in their past, which is when Charlie finds out that these two women were basically domestic terrorists and they were arrested before bombing a student a student get-together political thing. I forget exactly what it was. It completely changes Charlie's perspective of these two women that she had previously thought were badasses. Smoking weed with them, having all this time. The stories that they told made it seem like peace and love. They just do drugs and have sex and play music and all this stuff. Meanwhile, they're actually domestic terrorists. And it's also the episode that has one of the best fight scenes between Charlie Cale and these two older women, which is amazing. It is so good, so funny, so much fun, a great episode, absolutely. And Charlie almost dies at the end, not only during the fight with the two women, but they also rig up one of the golf carts to explode that Charlie narrowly escapes from at the end of the episode. A great episode, so much fun. And that is why it is here. My fourth favorite episode from Poker Face is episode 5, Time of the Monkey. Let's take a quick break from this episode to talk about Attention all Ray Taylor Show fans! We're excited to announce we've just released a line of exclusive merchandise featuring original artwork inspired by the show. Our high-quality shirts and biodegradable phone cases are a perfect way to show your support for the show and make a great gift for any fan. Plus, with each purchase, you'll be helping us continue to bring you great content. So don't wait. Head on over to InspiredDisorder.com now and check out the full collection. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll show your support by grabbing some Ray Taylor Show merchandise today. And now, let's get back to the show. Moving on to my third favorite episode from the show. This is an episode that came later on in the series. This is an episode that has one of the higher body counts. And this is an episode that finds Charlie fighting for her life more so, far more. In many ways, she dodges dying and in some ways does die in this episode. My third favorite episode from Poker Face is episode 9, Escape from Shit Mountain. This episode is directed by Ryan Johnson. It aired March 2nd, 2023. It is the penultimate episode of the season. The guest stars of this episode, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, David Castaneda, and Stephanie Sue. The body count I said was 3. There's 1 old body and 2 fresh bodies, and almost, in some ways, a 4th. Not really a body, but there is kind of a death of sorts that also takes place at the end of the episode. At the beginning, Charlie has a little romantic fling with a guy in Denver. This takes place in Colorado, in the mountains in Colorado outside of Denver. So we get to see Charlie kind of have her love story in the beginning of this episode, and then when the weather changes and winter comes and the mountains are covered with snow, Charlie's trying to get out of the mountains and gets stuck, not only being hit by a car, which was a crazy twist in the episode where I did not think it was her that got hit, and then when you find out it is, it's like, whoa. And buried under a tree, then later stabbed, buried under that same tree. Charlie escapes death multiple times. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the most villainous he's ever been in anything I've ever seen him. By far, a great role performance from him as he plays this investment banker that's under house arrest. You have him and his friend Jimmy, who tried to cover up an old murder. So there's an old body that they, from their past, from 10 years ago, that they put in the quote-unquote spot, and that is where they put Charlie. And as she kind of survives, crawls out of this place, she finds a bone from this person, and it leads them to, she's also partnered with Morty, who is this sticky-fingered pickpocket, who is kind of on Charlie's side, really on her own side. And both of them are trying to survive as they're trapped in this motel while there is a blizzard and they're trapped on the mountain. So nobody can come in, nobody can go out, and they're stuck. And it's a crazy episode where Charlie, hit by a car, stabbed with a knife. There's great flashback. The use of smells making somebody recall a memory from their past and how that is used in uncovering the truth of what happened is amazing. I love that aspect of this episode. The end reveal when Trey finally thinks he took care of everything, right? Thinks he's got away with all of it, and he gets back to his mansion, and he goes to clean up before he lets the PO in. He, in cleaning up, realizes that when Charlie sliced his leg with the knife, was done specifically to remove his ankle monitor. So when the reveal of him no longer having the ankle monitor on was great, was so great, and then you see where that ankle monitor is and see how that leads the cops. Like, it's all of these things that don't even take place in the episode, but you see the course of events that it's going to happen when Trey realizes that his ankle monitor is gone, and then it cuts to a shot where the ankle monitor turns on again in the hand of Charlie, who is under that tree, with Jimmy's body and the woman's body. Perfect. I love that so much. So much of this episode is so great. It's also an episode where Charlie's abilities, because she's in a situation, I kept questioning if she even had her abilities still, if she was even able to call bullshit. And because she can't openly call bullshit like she normally does, she has to pretend like she's not tracking everybody's lies, which I thought that was perfect as well. The reason why this is only at number 3 and not higher is because the very end, when Cliff is at the hospital, right, they track her down, right, the kind of other death that happens in this is that Morty stole Charlie's wallet, and when Morty died, for all intents and purposes, the government thinks that Charlie Cale is dead. And when Charlie is in the hospital and sees that on the news, she looks at her bracelet and it says Jane Doe. She laughs like, yes, I'm dead. Like, it's seemingly she's free because Cliff and Frost will assume she's dead and she's free now. Cut to Cliff in the parking lot saying that he found her, which in the next episode you find out that he went to identify the body and found out it wasn't her. If the end of this episode was done a little bit different and it ends with him assuming she's dead, I would have liked this episode more. Regardless, I love this episode. Charlie survives. She gets buried alive twice. Barely alive. Somehow survives. So great. Very stressful episode. By far the most evil character Joseph Gordon-Levitt has been. And, amazing episode. So coming in number 3, my third favorite Poker Face episode is episode 9, Escape from Shit Mountain. Moving on to my second favorite episode. I love all of these episodes on this list, by the way. But this is just the ranking. My second favorite episode is also the episode that sets everything up. And it's so good. It's not my favorite episode, but it is my second favorite episode. And that is episode 1, The Dead Man's Hand. This is directed by Ryan Johnson. It aired on January 26, 2023. Guest stars Adrian Brody, Dasha Polanco, and Noah Segan. The body count in this episode, 3 people dead, 2 murdered, 1 suicide. Charlie, when we first meet Charlie, she's working as a casino cocktail waitress in Nevada at some hotel casino owned by the Frost family, right? And the Frost Jr. is running the casino, and Frost Sr. is the one that hired Charlie because he found out that she had this amazing ability to call bullshit. And before Frost employed her, she was going around the country gambling. Small rooms, small games, not trying to cause any kind of commotion. And Senior was kind of enamored by how she's able to constantly win, and figures out that she just has this ability to spot liars, to spot bullshit. And in this episode, there's a situation where her friend Natalie finds very illegal content on the laptop of a whale that is staying at the hotel. Natalie takes a picture of the evidence of what this is, which I assume is child porn, and is, I think, it's never explicitly said in the episode, but that's the only thing I could think of. Natalie brings it to her boss, to Junior, and he's like, we'll take care of that. I'll have to take the get a hold of the FBI, whatever. Turns out that he ends up having Cliff, which is like his head of security, played by Benjamin Bratt, get rid of her husband, right, to make it look like a murder-suicide. And this is Charlie's friend. So part of this episode is Charlie trying to uncover what really happened. This is her first murder mystery that she's uncovering. It's also an episode where Junior is using Charlie in order to scam this whale in a private game, because he's finding out this guy's doing private games, taking money, so he's not spending money, he's not losing money in the casino, he's doing these private games. He's not happy about that, so he wants to scam this whale out of his money, get him where it hurts, right? And in the end, when Junior finds out that what Charlie did was expose Junior for rigging poker games, and how news travels in gambling communities, especially amongst whales, especially amongst high rollers, it basically meant that Charlie blackballed the Frost casinos. She blackballed their casinos by having this get out. And because of that, because Junior was trying to prove to his daddy that he knows how to do stuff, he ends up killing himself. It is great. It is a great episode. It is so good, and it's the one that starts everything off, where, she's on the run because Frost Sr. says he's going to track her down and kill her, right? So you have the head of security, Cliff, throughout the season chasing down Charlie, which the final episode's really great because you see what the year plus has been like for Cliff as he's tracking Charlie down. But my second favorite episode in the season, in the series, is episode 1, Dead Man's Hand. Great setup to the season. Great kind of thing that ends up getting wrapped up perfectly in the final episode. So yeah, great episode, but only my second favorite episode of the season. Let's take a quick break from this episode because I want to promote. Are you looking for a way to take your love of The Ray Taylor Show to the next level? Look no further than Inspired Disorder Plus. As a member, you'll get access to a whole host of amazing perks, including the full week of shows, ad-free in both audio and video versions, a live painting archive, early access to the many faces, members-only discounts and deals, a podcast back catalog with over 600 episodes. But that's not all. As a member, you'll get access to my personal blog as well as my creative writing. You'll also get the chance to ask me anything you want. With all of these benefits and more, Inspired Disorder Plus is a must-have for any fan of The Ray Taylor Show. So don't wait. Go sign up now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and start enjoying all of the amazing perks of the membership. And now, let's get back to the show. My favorite episode, my number one favorite episode of Poker Face, is episode 8, The Orpheus Syndrome. This episode was directed by our hero, Natasha Lyonne. This aired February 23rd, 2023. Guest stars Nick Nolte, Sherry Jones, Luis Guzman, Rowan Blanchard, and Tim Russ. The body count in this one is one of the highest. It's 4 body counts. There's one old murder from 30 years before, or 40 years in the past, and then three bodies more recent, which one of them is for sure suicide. The other one is kind of a suicide, but he was poisoned anyway. It's a great episode. So good. Amazing. You have Max, who's a founder of a visual effects company, Lamb, and it confronts one of his co-founders, Laura, over a tragic accident that happened at a shooting, a movie shoot 40 years in the past. He uncovers that this accident wasn't really an accident and that she was involved. Charlie ends up befriending the third co-founder, who is no longer associated with the company, Arthur Lipton, who is played by Nick Nolte, and it's amazing the voice that Nick Nolte and Natasha Lyonne share. Also, Natasha Lyonne's character in this, Charlie Cale, picked up a twitch from working at a barber shop, where everybody lies. And because she was surrounded by people who lie constantly all the time while she's working there, she developed a twitch. So she would twitch every time she heard somebody call bullshit. And that ability, that affect that her character picks up for just this episode is used to perfection when she finds out somebody is actually lying, and she gets like flooded with lies, and in the scene she is twitching like crazy. It is so well used, so inventive. There is a hyper-realistic bust made that is used as a face recognition to unlock a computer so the criminal can have access to deleting evidence. It's shot and filmed so great. Like, there is a moment that is so much like an Alfred Hitchcock type of a thriller. So amazing. Brutal, and also the knowledge of this guy who for 40 years has blamed himself for the tragic death of this actress on a movie he was filming, and to find out that it was not his fault, that it was somebody else actively making the situation more dangerous. Brilliant. It's just like so brutal. First off, it really makes the Laura character one of the most evil characters in the whole show. And then how she kind of breaks mentally at the end, and she sees all of the creatures that Arthur had made of this movie that was kind of this cathartic way for him to get past all the guilt he has in this like very surreal type of film that he was making. All of those creatures come to life when Laura's mental breaks and ends up killing herself. It's such a good episode. It made me excited to see what Natasha Lyonne directs next. I think this was amazing. The use of the twitching instead of her actively calling people out was absolutely amazing. So good, so brutal, like heart-wrenching in some ways. It has a great twist, high body count. Every aspect of this episode I loved. That's why it is my favorite. It's like between this one and the first episode are both really great, but this one, I think, because stylistically it's different, it has that kind of Hitchcock feel to it. The twists of different things, the fact that it's such a bigger story, and the visual kind of surreal nature of when she mentally breaks and she sees these creatures come together, which then makes for great stop motion scenes in the movie. Amazing. Can't wait to see. Would also love to see Nick Nolte and Natasha Lyonne do something together in a movie as like father-daughter or whatever, or just them hanging out. Like I want to watch a movie. I want to watch an independent movie with Nick Nolte and Natasha Lyonne get drunk and hanging out. Right? That could be the whole movie. Just listening to them talk to each other. I would love it. I would love it so much. I would love it so much. Just call it raspy voice. That's the movie. Doesn't have to be narrative. Just could be whatever. Experimental art house film. I don't care. I just love their chemistry, and that's another aspect of this. And it's also one of the few episodes where Charlie Cale's character's able to like open up to somebody about how she feels about her friend dying in the first episode and how she blames herself, relating to how Arthur blamed himself for 40 years and walked away from the film industry in the same way Charlie blames herself for Natalie dying and kind of had to run away from that situation. So great on so many levels. That is why my favorite episode from Poker Face is episode 8, The Orpheus Syndrome. So good. So good. Honorable mentions, The Hook, the final episode, is great. The reason why it didn't make the list is because despite it being a great wrap-up to the season in general, it's not as much of a self-contained episode. Also, I believe it's the only episode where Charlie doesn't use her bullshit meter, because everybody she comes in contact with in episode 10 already knows she can spot bullshit, so they don't lie to her. So I think it's the only episode where she actually doesn't even use her ability. Despite the fact that it's a great episode, it wraps the season up great. It sets up a second season in a great way. It also, we get to see a little bit more of Charlie's past, her family, her sister, her niece. So it opens the show up a little bit, sets up a great set for a second season, and wraps the season up. But I didn't think as a whole, as a self-contained story, I didn't think The Hook was that great. Benjamin Bratt's performance is also amazing. As he does, there's this monologue of him reciting the lyrics to the Blues Traveler song, The Hook, and how those lyrics and how the term The Hook is used throughout the episode is great. So it is a great episode, but it is only an honorable mention. Episode 10, The Hook. Also, episode 7, Future of the Sport, has a great twist. She's in Tennessee, and there's these two race car drivers. One guy's old, on his way out. Other guy's a young, brash up-and-comer, and a tragedy happens. It's also the only episode where there is no body count. But the twist is so good, it's almost fine that there's no body count. But it's at number 7. It has also one of the cheesiest scenes where somebody challenges another person to race in go-karts, which I found to be kind of stupid. But overall, a great season. Some episodes better than the others. Probably my least favorite episode was the dinner theater episode. It just like cringy, painful to watch. But overall, I really had a lot of fun. Also, the Rest in Metal episode was, it wasn't bad. They're all fun episodes. And I like that most of these episodes are self-contained stories. I love that we have this unconventional hero in Charlie Cale having this ability and how she's able to use it for good instead of all of these people who, instead of killing her, would rather have her work for them, use her ability for bad, and she continues to use it for good. So a very sympathetic character, an outcast, a reject, and somebody who gives voice to those people. It's a great show, a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see next season, season 2, whenever that comes out. And I'll be excited to break those episodes down when it does. But let me recap my list one more time, and we will get out of here, shall we? This is my top 5 episodes from Poker Face Season 1. Starting off with number 5 is episode 3, The Stall. My 4th favorite episode is episode 4, Time of the Monkey. My 3rd favorite episode is episode 9, Escape from Shit Mountain. My 2nd favorite episode is episode 1, The Dead Man's Hand. And my favorite episode of season 1 of Poker Face, the Peacock original series, is episode 8, The Orpheus Syndrome. Let me know how you would rank your favorite episodes from season 1 of Poker Face. Maybe you liked the episodes that I didn't like. I would love to hear any of your opinions on the show itself, how you would rank them. And don't forget to check out, if you want, check out my episode recap podcast for Poker Face if you want to hear me go in detail about every episode from season 1. So you can do that. Available on all podcast platforms as well as on YouTube. But I do want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Top 5 from The Ray Taylor Show. I hope you enjoyed my rankings and analysis of my top 5 episodes from Season 1 of Poker Face. There are so many great shows and so many great movies, and I will be back next week for a whole new Top 5 next Sunday. And don't forget to join the conversation by leaving a comment or rating on your favorite podcast platform, as well as over on youtube.com/inspired disorder if you're watching this. But until then, see you again next week for more Top 5. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.